The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the ranch. Dust swirled in the dry wind, and the sound of hooves and rustling leaves filled the air. Cole Matthews, a man in his late 40s, stood at the edge of the field, gazing over his land. His ranch was quiet, just like it always was. For years he had lived alone. The quiet of the ranch had become his friend, the solitude his companion. The fields were vast, the sky wide and empty. But he didn't mind. It had been this way since his family left. His parents had moved to the city, and his younger brother had gone off to find a different kind of life. Cole had stayed, tending to the land, living off what he grew, and the occasional cattle he raised. It had been a good life, a simple one. But it was also lonely. Cole was just finishing up his day's work, checking the fence on the far side of the ranch, when something unusual caught his attention. At first it was just a sound, faint and distant. A soft cry. His heart skipped a beat. It wasn't the usual sound of the wind or the cattle. He wasn't sure what it was, but it didn't sound like it belonged on his land. Curious, Cole walked toward the sound. He had learned to trust his instincts out here on the ranch. If something wasn't right, it was better to investigate. He walked slowly, keeping an eye out for anything that seemed out of place. The dry grass crunched under his boots, and the sound of the wind began to carry faint sobs toward him. As he got closer, the cries grew louder. And then, to his surprise, he saw her. A woman. She stood by the fence, her back turned to him. She was naked, her body covered in dirt and grime. Her hair was wild, tangled, and her shoulders trembled with each sob. Her whole body shook with fear. Cole froze for a moment. He had lived alone for years, but never had he encountered anything like this. A woman, alone and crying, standing in the middle of the field. Without thinking, he took a step forward. "Hey there, are you all right?" he called, his voice calm and steady. The woman didn't respond at first. She didn't even turn around, but her sobs grew louder. Cole stepped closer, keeping a safe distance. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "You're safe here. Don't worry." Finally, the woman slowly turned her head. Her eyes were wide with fear, and her face was streaked with dirt and tears. She looked at him as if she had never seen another person before. "What happened?" Cole asked, his voice gentle. The woman opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her lips trembled, as if she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. After a moment, she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't know. I don't know where I am." Cole took a step closer, trying to reassure her. "You're on my ranch," he said. "I can help you." Her eyes widened. She looked around as if she couldn't believe where she was. "I didn't ask for this," she muttered. "I didn't belong here." The words made no sense to Cole, but he didn't push her for more answers. She was clearly in shock, and he didn't want to overwhelm her. "Let's get you inside," he said softly. "You can rest. You'll be safe here." The woman didn't say anything, but she nodded faintly. Cole carefully guided her toward the cabin. She walked slowly, her legs unsteady beneath her. She looked as if she had been through something terrible, though she didn't explain. When they reached the cabin, Cole opened the door and led her inside. The small one-room cabin had a simple kitchen, a fireplace, and a bed. It was all Cole needed. He wasn't a man of luxury, just a man who took care of the land. He helped the woman sit down on the bed. "I'll get you some water," he said, moving toward the kitchen. He was about to pour her a glass when he heard a soft voice behind him. "What is this place?" she asked. Cole turned around. "This is my ranch," he said. "I've lived here for years." She seemed to process the information slowly, as though she were trying to understand something far beyond what she could grasp. "I don't understand," she said, her voice trembling again. "I was somewhere else, somewhere different. This place isn't where I'm supposed to be." Cole walked over to her and sat down on the edge of the bed. "I don't know what's happened to you," he said gently, "but you're safe here. You don't have to worry." She looked at him, her eyes filled with confusion. "I don't belong here," she repeated. Cole frowned but didn't press her any further. Whatever had happened to her, whatever she was going through, she needed time to recover. He handed her the glass of water. She took it without a word, drinking it slowly, though her hands still shook. As the hours passed, the woman seemed to calm down. She didn't speak much, only occasionally muttering to herself. Cole gave her food and water, trying to make her feel at ease. He told her his name was Cole, though she didn't respond with hers. She just nodded, as if she were trying to absorb everything around her. Night fell and the wind picked up. The quiet of the ranch was broken by the soft howling of the wind, the occasional creak of the wood in the cabin. Cole sat by the fire watching the woman closely. There was something strange about her. It wasn't just the way she had appeared at his fence. It was something in her eyes, a fear, yes, but also something deeper. Something that Cole couldn't quite place. He tried to shake the feeling. Maybe she was just confused. Maybe she had been through something traumatic. But as he sat there, his eyes drifting to the window, he couldn't ignore the strange sense of unease that had settled over him. He stood up and went to check the locks on the door and windows just in case. He had lived alone long enough to know that it was always better to be safe than sorry. As he returned to the fire, something caught his eye. The horizon. Far in the distance, he saw lights. Strange, glowing lights moving erratically across the sky. At first, he thought it was just a trick of the wind or maybe a plane, but the lights were too close. Too large, his heart skipped a beat. The lights were moving fast, coming toward him. Toward the ranch. Cole stepped closer to the window, his eyes narrowing. Something wasn't right. He had a feeling. One he had learned to trust over the years. A feeling that told him danger was near. The woman looked up from the fire, her face pale. She seemed to sense something too. "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft. Cole didn't answer right away. He couldn't. The lights in the distance were getting closer. Much closer. And that feeling, the one that told him something was wrong, grew stronger. "They're coming," she whispered, almost to herself. Cole's grip tightened on the window frame. He didn't know what was happening, but he knew one thing for sure. The woman wasn't just lost. She wasn't just confused. She was running from something, and whatever it was getting closer. The lights in the distance grew brighter, their strange glow cutting through the dark sky like a beacon. Cole stood still by the window, staring out at the approaching lights. He could feel the hair on the back of his neck rise. This wasn't a plane or a group of cars. These lights were unlike anything he had ever seen before. Amara, sitting by the fire, looked up at him, her face pale. She didn't speak, but her eyes were filled with a deep, unsettling fear. It was the same fear that had filled her when she first arrived. Whatever was coming, she knew what it was. And Cole could see it in her eyes. It wasn't good. "Who are they?" Cole asked, his voice steady though his heart was racing. Amara shook her head, her hands trembling. I don't know. I didn't think they would find me here. Not this soon." "Who are you running from?" Cole asked, his tone sharper now. He had to know. Amara swallowed hard before speaking, her voice barely a whisper. "The Vrisk," she said. They're not human. They came to my world to enslave us. I escaped during an experiment, but they'll find me. And when they do, they'll take me back. And they won't stop until they find me." Cole didn't understand everything she said. He wasn't sure what an experiment was in her case or who these Vrisk were. But one thing was clear. They were after her and they were coming for them both. Cole's mind raced. He couldn't let them get her. He couldn't let them destroy everything he had worked for. His ranch, his life, and he sure as hell wasn't going to let anyone take her away. Not after everything she had already been through. He had to protect her. He had to protect them both. "Listen to me," he said, his voice low and serious. "You need to stay here. Don't leave the cabin no matter what." Amara nodded, but her eyes were wide with terror. "They'll come for me. They'll come for both of us." Cole didn't answer. He knew she was right. They weren't just coming for her. They were coming for both of them. But he wasn't about to sit around and wait to find out what they were going to do. No, he would fight back. He wasn't the type of man to give up without a fight. Quickly, Cole moved to the back of the cabin and pulled out a few old, rusty tools he had kept for emergencies. He had some experience with weapons, having served in the military years ago, and he knew how to rig up traps. The tools weren't much, but they could make a difference. He had to believe that. "Amara, I need you to stay here," Cole said, his voice firm. "Don't move unless I tell you. Do you understand?" Amara didn't say anything for a moment. Then her voice quivered. "I'm scared." "I know," Cole said quietly. "But you're not alone. I'll keep you safe." He grabbed a few tools, a hammer, some nails, and a few lengths of wire, and quickly went to work. His mind was focused, his hands moving with precision. He started by reinforcing the door, making sure it couldn't be easily broken down. He set up traps outside, simple but effective ones. He knew the Vrisk wouldn't expect someone like him to put up a fight. But that would be their mistake. As he worked, Cole couldn't help but wonder what the Vrisk were. They weren't human, that much was clear. But what kind of creatures were they? And why were they hunting Amara? Amara had been silent for a long time, and when Cole finally finished setting up the traps, he turned to see her sitting by the fire again, her eyes distant. "Are you okay?" Cole asked, his voice soft. She nodded, though her face was still pale. "I've been running from them for so long," she said. "I didn't think I would ever escape. I didn't think there was a chance. You're here now," Cole said, "and I'm not going to let them take you." Amara looked up at him, her eyes full of gratitude. "But how will we fight them? They're too powerful." "We don't need to beat them all at once," Cole said, a small smile forming on his face. "We just need to survive. And if they want a fight, we'll give them one." The hours passed slowly. The wind howled outside, and the faint hum of the lights in the distance grew louder. The Vrisk were close. Suddenly Cole heard something. The ground beneath his feet seemed to tremble just a little. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the distance. The Vrisk had arrived. Cole's heart pounded in his chest. He moved quickly to the window and peered outside. In the dim light, he saw them, shadowy figures moving across the field heading toward the cabin. They were tall, their bodies sleek and dark, with strange markings glowing faintly on their skin. Their eyes were too wide, their faces cold and emotionless. They were coming for her. His grip tightened on the rifle he had grabbed from the corner of the cabin. He didn't know how many there were, but he couldn't let them get any closer. He had to act fast. Cole turned to Amara. "Stay down," he said, his voice urgent. "Don't move." Amara nodded, her eyes wide with fear. Cole opened the door carefully, slipping out into the night. The cold air bit at his skin, but he didn't care. He had a job to do, and he wouldn't fail. He moved quickly through the tall grass, staying low to the ground. The Vrisk were close now, their heavy footsteps louder as they drew nearer. Cole could hear their voices, low and guttural, speaking in a language he didn't understand. The first one came into view, walking right into one of Cole's traps. The ground beneath it gave way, and the creature fell into a pit Cole had dug earlier. It screeched in surprise, struggling to get out. Cole didn't waste any time. He fired the rifle, hitting the creature square in the chest. It fell silent. The other Vrisk heard the shot. They turned toward the noise, their glowing eyes scanning the darkness. Cole didn't hesitate. He took out two more before they could react, their bodies crumpling to the ground. But there were more. The Vrisk began to charge, and Cole could hear the sound of their weapons activating. They weren't going down without a fight. Cole fired again, but the Vrisk were quick and they returned fire, the energy blasts lighting up the night. Cole ducked behind a tree, his heart pounding. He couldn't keep this up for long, but then he heard something. A voice coming from behind him. It was Amara. She stood at the edge of the cabin, her hands glowing with an energy Cole had never seen before. She raised her hands and a burst of power shot out, hitting one of the Vrisk square in the chest. The creature stumbled backward, its weapon falling from its hands. Cole stared in shock. Amara's eyes were filled with determination. She wasn't just a helpless victim, she was a fighter. Together, they fought. The Vrisk were strong, but they weren't prepared for the combined power of a human and a woman who had escaped from their grasp. The battle raged on, but Cole knew they could win this. They could hold their ground. The Vrisk retreated, their numbers thinning. The survivors quickly called for a retreat, their voices sharp and angry. They weren't going to give up easily, but for now they were gone. Amara looked at Cole, her face full of exhaustion, but also relief. "We did it," she said, her voice trembling. Cole nodded, his chest heaving with heavy breaths. "Yeah," he said. "We did." But deep down he knew this was only the beginning. The Vrisk would return, and when they did, they would be ready. For now, though, the ranch was safe. And for the first time in a long while, Cole didn't feel alone. He had Amara by his side. And together, they were stronger than any enemy that could come for them.